I cleaned my room.
I cleaned my room.
Limpié mi habitación.
I cleaned my room. She cooked some rice.
She cooked some rice.
Ella cocinó arroz.
She cooked some rice. He washed the car.
He washed the car.
Él lavó el auto.
He washed the car. We closed the window.
We closed the window.
Cerramos la ventana.
We closed the window. They opened the gate.
They opened the gate.
Ellos abrieron la reja.
They opened the gate. I fixed the chair.
I fixed the chair.
Arreglé la silla.
I fixed the chair. She wiped the mirror.
She wiped the mirror.
Ella limpió el espejo.
She wiped the mirror. He watered the plants.
He watered the plants.
Él regó las plantas.
He watered the plants. We swept the floor.
We swept the floor.
Barrimos el piso.
We swept the floor. They mopped the kitchen.
They mopped the kitchen.
Ellos trapeaban la cocina.
They mopped the kitchen. I folded my clothes.
I folded my clothes.
Doblé mi ropa.
I folded my clothes. She ironed his shirt.
She ironed his shirt.
Ella planchó su camisa.
She ironed his shirt. He brushed his teeth.
He brushed his teeth.
Él se cepilló los dientes.
He brushed his teeth. We watched a movie.
We watched a movie.
Vimos una película.
We watched a movie. They danced all night.
They danced all night.
Bailaron toda la noche.
They danced all night. I studied very hard.
I studied very hard.
Estudié mucho.
I studied very hard. She passed the test.
She passed the test.
Ella aprobó el examen.
She passed the test. He failed the exam.
He failed the exam.
Él reprobó el examen.
He failed the exam. We wrote a letter.
We wrote a letter.
Escribimos una carta.
We wrote a letter. They read the book.
They read the book.
Ellos leyeron el libro.
They read the book. I drew a picture.
I drew a picture.
Dibujé una imagen.
I drew a picture. She painted her nails.
She painted her nails.
Ella se pintó las uñas.
She painted her nails. He erased the answer.
He erased the answer.
Él borró la respuesta.
He erased the answer. We solved the problem.
We solved the problem.
Resolvimos el problema.
We solved the problem. They listened to music.
They listened to music.
Escucharon música.
They listened to music. I learned new words.
I learned new words.
Aprendí nuevas palabras.
I learned new words. She asked a question.
She asked a question.
Ella hizo una pregunta.
She asked a question. He answered too quickly.
He answered too quickly.
Él respondió muy rápido.
He answered too quickly. We discussed the topic.
We discussed the topic.
Discutimos el tema.
We discussed the topic. They practiced every day.
They practiced every day.
Practicaron todos los días.
They practiced every day. I joined the club.
I joined the club.
Me uní al club.
I joined the club. She skipped the class.
She skipped the class.
Ella faltó a clase.
She skipped the class. He brought his notes.
He brought his notes.
Él trajo sus apuntes.
He brought his notes. We arrived on time.
We arrived on time.
Llegamos a tiempo.
We arrived on time. They left too early.
They left too early.
Ellos se fueron temprano.
They left too early. I traveled last summer.
I traveled last summer.
Viajé el verano pasado.
I traveled last summer. She visited her grandma.
She visited her grandma.
Ella visitó a su abuela.
She visited her grandma. He booked a flight.
He booked a flight.
Él reservó un vuelo.
He booked a flight. We packed our bags.
We packed our bags.
Empacamos nuestras maletas.
We packed our bags. They missed the train.
They missed the train.
Ellos perdieron el tren.
They missed the train. I walked to school.
I walked to school.
Caminé a la escuela.
I walked to school. She rode her bike.
She rode her bike.
Ella montó su bicicleta.
She rode her bike. He drove too fast.
He drove too fast.
Él condujo muy rápido.
He drove too fast. We took the bus.
We took the bus.
Tomamos el autobús.
We took the bus. They ran together yesterday.
They ran together yesterday.
Corrieron juntos ayer.
They ran together yesterday. I climbed the stairs.
I climbed the stairs.
Subí las escaleras.
I climbed the stairs. She waited in line.
She waited in line.
Ella esperó en fila.
She waited in line. He crossed the road.
He crossed the road.
Él cruzó la calle.
He crossed the road. We turned the corner.
We turned the corner.
Doblamos la esquina.
We turned the corner. They reached the station.
They reached the station.
Llegaron a la estación.
They reached the station. I shopped for clothes.
I shopped for clothes.
Fui de compras.
I shopped for clothes. She bought a dress.
She bought a dress.
Ella compró un vestido.
She bought a dress. He paid with cash.
He paid with cash.
Él pagó en efectivo.
He paid with cash. We tried new shoes.
We tried new shoes.
Probamos zapatos nuevos.
We tried new shoes. They sold their car.
They sold their car.
Vendieron su coche.
They sold their car. I chose the blue.
I chose the blue.
Elegí el azul.
I chose the blue. She found her keys.
She found her keys.
Ella encontró sus llaves.
She found her keys. He lost his phone.
He lost his phone.
Él perdió su teléfono.
He lost his phone. We returned the gift.
We returned the gift.
Devolvimos el regalo.
We returned the gift. They exchanged the item.
They exchanged the item.
Cambiaron el artículo.
They exchanged the item. I made some soup.
I made some soup.
Hice una sopa.
I made some soup. She boiled the eggs.
She boiled the eggs.
Ella hirvió los huevos.
She boiled the eggs. He fried the chicken.
He fried the chicken.
Él frió el pollo.
He fried the chicken. We baked a cake.
We baked a cake.
Horneamos un pastel.
We baked a cake. They cut the vegetables.
They cut the vegetables.
Cortaron las verduras.
They cut the vegetables. I peeled the apples.
I peeled the apples.
Pelé las manzanas.
I peeled the apples. She stirred the sauce.
She stirred the sauce.
Ella revolvió la salsa.
She stirred the sauce. He mixed the ingredients.
He mixed the ingredients.
Él mezcló los ingredientes.
He mixed the ingredients. We tasted the soup.
We tasted the soup.
Probamos la sopa.
We tasted the soup. They served the food.
They served the food.
Sirvieron la comida.
They served the food. I cleaned the kitchen.
I cleaned the kitchen.
Limpié la cocina.
I cleaned the kitchen. She dried the dishes.
She dried the dishes.
Ella secó los platos.
She dried the dishes. He threw the trash.
He threw the trash.
Él tiró la basura.
He threw the trash. We opened the fridge.
We opened the fridge.
Abrimos la nevera.
We opened the fridge. They poured the juice.
They poured the juice.
Vertieron el jugo.
They poured the juice. I spilled the water.
I spilled the water.
Derramé el agua.
I spilled the water. She broke a glass.
She broke a glass.
Ella rompió un vaso.
She broke a glass. He fixed the sink.
He fixed the sink.
Él arregló el fregadero.
He fixed the sink. We repaired the door.
We repaired the door.
Reparamos la puerta.
We repaired the door. They painted the wall.
They painted the wall.
Pintaron la pared.
They painted the wall. I woke up early.
I woke up early.
Me desperté temprano.
I woke up early. She got dressed quickly.
She got dressed quickly.
Ella se vistió rápido.
She got dressed quickly. He brushed his hair.
He brushed his hair.
Él se peinó.
He brushed his hair. We made the bed.
We made the bed.
Tendimos la cama.
We made the bed. They left the house.
They left the house.
Salieron de casa.
They left the house. I called my mom.
I called my mom.
Llamé a mi mamá.
I called my mom. She texted her friend.
She texted her friend.
Ella envió un mensaje.
She texted her friend. He sent the email.
He sent the email.
Él envió el correo.
He sent the email. We wrote the message.
We wrote the message.
Escribimos el mensaje.
We wrote the message. They replied last night.
They replied last night.
Respondieron anoche.
They replied last night. I loved the movie.
I loved the movie.
Me encantó la película.
I loved the movie. She enjoyed the show.
She enjoyed the show.
Ella disfrutó el espectáculo.
She enjoyed the show. He hated the ending.
He hated the ending.
Él odió el final.
He hated the ending. We liked the food.
We liked the food.
Nos gustó la comida.
We liked the food. They preferred that song.
They preferred that song.
Prefirieron esa canción.
They preferred that song. I smiled at her.
I smiled at her.
Le sonreí a ella.
I smiled at her. She laughed so hard.
She laughed so hard.
Ella se rió mucho.
She laughed so hard. He cried last night.
He cried last night.
Él lloró anoche.
He cried last night. We felt so tired.
We felt so tired.
Nos sentimos muy cansados.
We felt so tired. They relaxed all day.
They relaxed all day.
Descansaron todo el día.
They relaxed all day. I slept very late.
I slept very late.
Dormí muy tarde.
I slept very late. She dreamed about rain.
She dreamed about rain.
Ella soñó con lluvia.
She dreamed about rain. He snored all night.
He snored all night.
Él roncó toda la noche.
He snored all night. We stayed at home.
We stayed at home.
Nos quedamos en casa.
We stayed at home. They left for work.
They left for work.
Ellos salieron a trabajar.
They left for work. I worked all morning.
I worked all morning.
Trabajé toda la mañana.
I worked all morning. She cooked for everyone.
She cooked for everyone.
Ella cocinó para todos.
She cooked for everyone. He cleaned the garage.
He cleaned the garage.
Él limpió el garaje.
He cleaned the garage. We washed the car.
We washed the car.
Lavamos el auto.
We washed the car. They built a fort.
They built a fort.
Ellos construyeron una fortaleza.
They built a fort. I played with toys.
I played with toys.
Jugué con juguetes.
I played with toys. She kicked the ball.
She kicked the ball.
Ella pateó el balón.
She kicked the ball. He caught the frisbee.
He caught the frisbee.
Él atrapó el frisbee.
He caught the frisbee. We watched the game.
We watched the game.
Vimos el partido.
We watched the game. They scored 3 goals.
They scored 3 goals.
Anotaron 3 goles.
They scored 3 goals. I visited the zoo.
I visited the zoo.
Visité el zoológico.
I visited the zoo. She fed the ducks.
She fed the ducks.
Ella alimentó a los patos.
She fed the ducks. He rode a horse.
He rode a horse.
Él montó un caballo.
He rode a horse. We saw the elephants.
We saw the elephants.
Vimos los elefantes.
We saw the elephants. They took pictures there.
They took pictures there.
Tomaron fotos allí.
They took pictures there. I lit the fire.
I lit the fire.
Encendí el fuego.
I lit the fire. She roasted some marshmallows.
She roasted some marshmallows.
Ella asó malvaviscos.
She roasted some marshmallows. He pitched the tent.
He pitched the tent.
Él montó la tienda.
He pitched the tent. We hiked the trail.
We hiked the trail.
Caminamos por el sendero.
We hiked the trail. They camped last weekend.
They camped last weekend.
Acamparon el fin de semana.
They camped last weekend. I sang a song.
I sang a song.
Canté una canción.
I sang a song. She danced with me.
She danced with me.
Ella bailó conmigo.
She danced with me. He played the piano.
He played the piano.
Él tocó el piano.
He played the piano. We clapped after that.
We clapped after that.
Aplaudimos después de eso.
We clapped after that. They listened to jazz.
They listened to jazz.
Escucharon jazz.
They listened to jazz. I heard a noise.
I heard a noise.
Oí un ruido.
I heard a noise. She smelled the cake.
She smelled the cake.
Ella olió el pastel.
She smelled the cake. He touched the wall.
He touched the wall.
Él tocó la pared.
He touched the wall. We saw the stars.
We saw the stars.
Vimos las estrellas.
We saw the stars. They watched the sunset.
They watched the sunset.
Miraron la puesta del sol.
They watched the sunset. I hugged my friend.
I hugged my friend.
Abracé a mi amigo.
I hugged my friend. She kissed the baby.
She kissed the baby.
Ella besó al bebé.
She kissed the baby. He held her hand.
He held her hand.
Él le sostuvo la mano.
He held her hand. We shook our heads.
We shook our heads.
Negamos con la cabeza.
We shook our heads. They waved goodbye sadly.
They waved goodbye sadly.
Se despidieron con la mano.
They waved goodbye sadly. I thanked my teacher.
I thanked my teacher.
Agradecí a mi maestro.
I thanked my teacher. She greeted the guests.
She greeted the guests.
Ella saludó a los invitados.
She greeted the guests. He smiled at strangers.
He smiled at strangers.
Él sonrió a extraños.
He smiled at strangers. We helped our neighbors.
We helped our neighbors.
Ayudamos a nuestros vecinos.
We helped our neighbors. They shared their snacks.
They shared their snacks.
Compartieron sus bocadillos.
They shared their snacks. I opened my gift.
I opened my gift.
Abrí mi regalo.
I opened my gift. She wrapped the box.
She wrapped the box.
Ella envolvió la caja.
She wrapped the box. He mailed the letter.
He mailed the letter.
Él envió la carta.
He mailed the letter. We received the invitation.
We received the invitation.
Recibimos la invitación.
We received the invitation. They celebrated his birthday.
They celebrated his birthday.
Celebraron su cumpleaños.
They celebrated his birthday.